Hello and welcome to the UKDBA University Championships, hosted this year by the WLCT Chase Leisure Centre in association with Vedette Lager, Speed Freak and Spatial Awareness Media. My name's Andrew Carson. Joining me today are Alex Harrison and Jake Canner. Hello guys.
Pleasure to be here.
Hello. So, as you can see going on in the background now, we have the men's championship. Any thoughts for this championship today?
Well, I'm just really looking forward to getting to see some of the new players to the university scene. These players are only at uni for 3 or 4 years, and it's really their big chance to make their mark on the university scene.
Absolutely. And any thoughts for you, Jake? Any looking forward to any particular favourite matches or favourites for the tournament itself?
Yeah, I'm mostly interested in seeing how the bigger or more reputable universities freshers stack up against some of the relatively new university freshers, because they're so energetic and unbounded by training. It'd be interesting to see what they've picked up in such a short amount of time.
So yesterday we saw the action from the women's and the freshers tournament. Jake, you were here to cover it.
That's right.
Do you have any thoughts pre-match, pre-tournament going into it that you thought teams to look out for, teams that you thought might cause a few surprises? Anything like that?
Sure. I mean, in terms of the freshers, like I've already said there, very little to go on at the start. We've seen a couple of these names possibly in community teams before joining universities this year, and they're keen to get into the uni champs, and it was a big tournament to get into, but really totally open game for them. For the women, it's a little bit more structured. We've seen a lot of these teams growing over the years. They're not brand new, they've had a couple of years in the game, so we were looking at some of the older universities, looking at Warwick, maybe Bedford Bulls, traditionally strong teams, and then a couple of the new up-and-comers, including Birmingham and a refreshed Derby team this year, I think.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time this year working with the Derby team, and they lost a lot of graduates. But this year they've been working particularly hard on gaining some core members to the women's team. As I'm sure it's the problem with all universities. Alex, you had it many years at Warwick trying to retain.
I think that's the sign of a good university club, one that can lose a whole tranche of players, but then come back refreshed and as strong as ever.
Okay.
So take us into the tournament then, Jake.
Starting off, there were very, very few upsets from the women's game all the way through. We were looking for let's say the established teams to be making their way through. Straight through the groups we were looking at Birmingham, Warwick, Winchester, managing to get their girls back in form. They managed to hold on and get a full team out. Then of course Bedford Bulls, already mentioned, and Derby, they were the teams we were looking for, and they sailed through the groups with minimal issue.
Okay. Moving out of the group stages, we move into the quarterfinals. Were there any particular matches in there that you thought could cause an upset, or did actually cause an upset?
There was, yeah. Very unfortunate for Bedford Bulls. We thought they were going to be going pretty much all the way. They've always been a strong sporting university, Bedford Uni, and their men's team, women's team traditionally, very, very strong indeed. They've lost a lot of players to their new community team, Bedford Eagles, and we did think that they weren't going to be able to field enough players in time, but they managed to get a really strong looking team together. Like I said, they sailed through the groups with relative ease, and then they came up in the quarterfinals and they just came unstuck. So they took an early shower and they were on their way back. Same for Winchester as well. They had a particularly hard-fought game against Birmingham, I think, and it came right down to the wire. But Birmingham being together as a solid team, and the Winchester girls just seemed a little bit phased by the team chemistry on the other side. So fortunately, they had to leave as well.
So coming out of the quarterfinals into the semis, then I understand you managed to catch Derby versus Balls of Steel, which was semi-final number 1.
Yes, I did. So it was actually a rerun of last year's final. Okay. Ultimately, we got the same result with Balls of Steel coming out on top. It was an interesting game. Really, you've got peppering of international ability across both teams, both current and former. I think that really told at the end of the day.
It was funny how their particular traits aligned with the team traits. We were saying before, Balls of Steel, traditionally a very defensive side, lots of catching, and both Emily and Frankie displayed an awful lot of that. Derby were doing a good team game, much more offensive, much quicker game. Lots of throwing in threes, trapping balls, trying to get their set pieces together. And sometimes it was coming off. Ultimately, the defensive, slower game of Balls of Steel helped win out.
Yeah, I think that's typical of the women's game. If you can get a good catching core to your team, you're always going to have that upper hand.
You are, yeah. So moving into the second semi-final, I believe that was between Warwick and Birmingham Lions.
Surprisingly, in this one, the typically hot-headed Warwick played a much calmer game than they're used to playing. They've lost a good number of players on the women's side over the last few years. Only 1 or 2 each year, but this has been pretty much a whole refresh from the teams that we used to play alongside and even against. Yeah. So there was a good international core again on the Warwick side, in the middle calling all the shots, but the girls outside on the wings, they've fallen into place really, really well this year, very quickly as well. So they were doing their best to trap the ball, slow the game down, and just try and hit out the Birmingham players one by one. Birmingham this time, normally I would have had them as more of a defensive team, but they were stepping up the energy, they were passing the balls between each other, mixing up the throws, staggering high and low. They were tactically on top of the Warwick game,
and
really.
a relative unknown as well.
Exactly, yeah, very, very quick. It's been maybe their third year as a team, and they've just set up a team, set up a club, developed a team, absolutely taken it by storm very quickly.
They've really burst onto the scene. I mean, I think what we're seeing, especially with the new, smaller ball, certainly the Birmingham team is really able to hit players out with a lot more reliability. Don't know what something about their throwing technique. They really make the most of it.
Yeah, it really has switched the emphasis from like a Balls of Steel team that always just used to sit back and wait.
Absolutely, that it's sped the whole thing up. We were talking about this a lot at the European Championships, the 7-inch ball, and the girls can probably get their hands around it and throw it from the shoulder as opposed to from the hip. It's a much more direct, speedy throw, and it's made the catching game a lot more difficult, but also sped the whole game up, made it a lot more interesting to watch and play.
So moving again into the third place playoff.
Yep, that was Warwick and Derby. Both teams a little bit dejected, not too happy with having to play off for bronze medals. They were both looking for the top spots. Starting strong, Derby again with the fast game, Warwick trying to play that slow game. This time, a total reversal of the previous semi-final. That slow game from Warwick really flustered the Derby team. Every time that Warwick were trapping a ball, it was interrupting and disrupting the Derby tactics. They weren't able to recover in time, lots of flustering, trying to pass the ball around, and it wasn't working for them. So just the clinical slogging it out from the Warwick side gave them the edge ultimately.
Gave them the edge.
And they took the bronze.
So moving into the final then, Alex, I understand you got a full view of that game.
Yeah, no, it was a brilliant final. Really fitting to enter the tournament. Yeah, we saw Balls of Steel face off against Birmingham Lions ladies. It's a great match. Like you've got two contrasting styles again. Birmingham's offensive style and Balls of Steel's catching ability. Real hallmarks of their styles.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Classic
it
Balls
is.
of Steel,
It
classic
is.
Nottingham.
Classic Nottingham,
8
right
years
through the men's and the mixed. Yeah.
So typically most games were slow to start off with, sort of both teams being a bit cagey. But then towards the end of each 3-minute game, the Birmingham team really stepped up the speed. You saw their power throwing come into it, and also they've got great catching ability in that team. I don't know how they've done it, but with their new intake, they've got a load more freshers that can catch, and then they've got some great experience there.
Yeah, they do, absolutely. Like we've said before, a relative unknown coming into the tournament. They come out winners at the end of it, beating the odds against a very strong Balls of Steel side.
Well, that's
very
it.
strong.
We all thought that the experience of Balls of Steel and that Nottingham heritage would have carried them through. Not comfortably, they'd still have to fight for it, but they would be the ones with the composure and the experience to just sort of sit there, read the game, come out on top. But like I say, in that last minute of almost every game in the match, Birmingham just turning on the class and pulling great catches, and again strong throwing in threes, good team play all round, and just catching Balls of Steel off guard. I think they'd sort of slowed themselves a bit too much.
Yeah, maybe they're expecting just to retain the title. Who knows?
So running alongside the women's tournament was obviously the freshers tournament, the third year that this
Yes.
has been running now.
Yeah, I mean, the freshers game is very, very different. They are completely unbridled, and it's just energy, and they're bounding everywhere, and they're going for the catches and the hits you wouldn't expect them to, and often pulling them off. So it's generally, especially at the medal position, when they're really going for it, it's a fantastic game to watch.
The third, fourth playoff was between Warwick and
Nottingham Balls of Steel.
Nottingham Balls of
Yeah.
Steel. So two illustrious universities in the sport of dodgeball,
Absolutely, yeah,
fighting it off for a third place trophy.
We were expecting to see them up in the medal positions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Warwick won it last year, didn't they?
Who came out on top of that match then?
In the end, it was Warwick.
Okay.
Warwick, like the girls' team actually, played a slightly calmer game than they had done through the groups, and that won out against Balls of Steel, who were just a little bit too aggressive, a little bit too wild. So unfortunately, they lost out in fourth place, and Warwick took that bronze.
Well, I think that's credit to the coaching that they would have received in these few months leading up to the tournament.
Absolutely.
To instill that sort of
It is
awareness.
The most important thing is to develop on these freshers early on.
That's it. They seem to know their roles quite well. They know who the catchers are likely to be and who the wing is for the throwing. They've gone for the standard lineup, catching in the centre, countering in the wings, but they've identified those positions quite early on.
It's all about getting an element of the tactical awareness that you get with experience, but not reining in the raw potential of these players that are still finding what their role on a dodgeball court is.
Absolutely. So then the final, who came out on top on that one then?
Right, well that was Winchester and Birmingham Lions again, so we're saying that they've come out of nowhere in such a short amount of time. 3 years they've had a club. The Freshers took that tournament by absolute storm. Now the two were very evenly matched, very even play style. They were both wildly aggressive, and there were lots of instances of uncertain calls and questioning the referee and lots of high flaring tempers. But they are young players and lots of energy. But I think this is going to be one of those great dodgeball rivalries. We could see already that they were keen to win, really, really keen.
So the men's championship is going on behind us right now. Pre-tournament, any favourites that you can pick out for us, Alex?
Well, you've got to look at last year's winners, Derby Seahawks. Arguably they're strengthened by one of their players returning, Chris Harper, returning from the Premier League winners Meteors to play for his university team. He's been training with the squad. I think that they're my favourite for the day, to be honest.
Absolutely. I mean, I was fortunate enough to win it with them last year, and the impact that one player had.
It doesn't matter. We still got Chris.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. As daft as that sounds, it is totally down to that mentality of we always know that he will pull something out of the bag. So I guess he would be a man to watch, absolutely.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that in a few different teams. I mean, you've got the likes of Brett Koenig doing a master's degree now at DMU. I mean,
switching from their varsity rivals.
Leicester down to DMU. It's going to go down the storm with the Leicester boys today.
You could have anything happen in that. There could be an upset there. And you've got Darren Skilton returning to play for Warwick, the postgraduate degree there, so he's eligible for that.
Some slight issue around the eligibility of certain players to play for the universities.
There was a bit yesterday. We had Liv Morris, ex-Warwick, graduated there. She's doing a PGCE over at Leicester, and so she was playing for the Leicester team. Back to today, so we've got likes Darren Skilton coming back, Brett Masters, another university. A lot of familiar faces cropping up in teams you wouldn't expect them to.
That we haven't, and we're not fortunate enough to be in one of those situations to come down and play.
Open university degrees.
Yes,
guys,
yes.
And,
Manchester Metropolitan, talking about open university degrees.
Yes.
Manchester Met, new team this year with some quite significant players and coaching staff as well.
They've brought in Deegan is playing. They've got Aidan.
Yes, and they've got Lewis Brimmel there on the coaching staff as well for them.
Yeah. When you've got a new team like that, it's essential you've got someone that knows what they're doing with some experience, just to guide people through the tournament.
Birmingham, the surprise package in the women's and the freshers. I don't think a university has ever won all three on the same.
Not had a hat trick yet, no.
No, I know Derby have won individuals. Warwick won 3 on the trot, but there wasn't the opportunity back then for the freshers tournament.
So when we were freshers, our first university champs experience was in a second team, or
same here, second team, and then
the
thirds.
Yeah, the real deal.
Yeah. What do we think? Do we fancy Birmingham? Personally, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I reckon they're going to make it through the groups. Almost, relatively comfortably, but I'd be surprised if we see them challenging for the top 2 medals, still possibly pushing for 3rd, 4th and getting up there, and maybe a bit of upset, but I really think we're looking at the more established DPL teams.
Bedford, Derby.
That's it,
although
Warwick.
Coming on to Bedford have lost a significant portion of their team.
Almost everyone, all fresh faces.
I think with Bedford you've got a lot of pressure on the likes of Tamas Ward, the only international player on the side.
Fully fledged international at that as well.
Yeah, what can he bring to the team? We've seen his ability in DPL, but can the team work around him and get a good result? We'll have to see.
I mean, in terms of upset, I think we could be looking, you were saying before about the return of Brett Koenig in the DMU team. I don't think they're going to go through and win it, but I reckon they could be taking vital points off some of the bigger teams.
Absolutely.
That's going to cause a bit of trouble as they go into the knockout stage. The matching
key.
Up isn't going to line up as you'd predict.
Yeah, so I think a player like Brett, who is arguably the best, if not one of the best players that we've ever seen play the sport, it's the same with the Christopher Harper impact. It's that man is able to produce something that no other player can do. He did it last year with Leicester. Did it last year, brought them through to a medal, which nobody predicted.
Did as well, yeah.
Yes, to a 3rd place. Nobody predicted that at the start of the day.
Not to discredit the rest of his team, they obviously helped him along the way.
Yeah.
I think what we saw surrounding him at Leicester was a very competent team with a lot of other skills in there. Some great catching, just to really secure the victory, whereas I think with DMU it's a much more inexperienced team.
We were talking to Brett earlier, and we understand that their first training session was Friday.
Okay.
Taking it seriously.
So
then.
taking it incredibly seriously, but this is these are the things you have to do when you're setting up a club early. This is no better a competition to showcase this to the players and say this is what you are working for. This is what Brett will only be there for a year, but he will set up the foundations hopefully for a successful club, because De Montfort are a very large university.
They did dabble, I believe, before. I think they had one of the other referees, Jess, was over there, and she did sort of set up a bit of a club to start with, but they've all left as a group, so Brett's essentially had to start again.
I think with the university team, just in general, you've got a real situation where you've got to take who you've got.
Yeah.
It's not a club scene. You can't bring in a signing to balance your team up.
You play with the players around
you. All rounders in your team. You've got throwers and catchers in the same team. But if you're catcher heavy, you've got to find a tactic that works with that.
One other team we haven't touched on, Winchester. Now, Winchester, I played against them in the quarterfinals last year. They went up against us, and a bit of individual brilliance from one Michael Parry and Mark Allen, who is actually captain of the team this year, brought us back into it. But we were very, very worried for a while. I understand they've lost a few players, but they have gained one player in particular to look out for is Ben Stewart. Now, I was fortunate enough to coach him in 2012, and he won the Freshers tournament in 2012 with Derby. With Derby, yeah, he did an access course. So he's a Derby local and is now studying at Winchester University. Any thoughts on the Winchester team? I know they've typically always been strong. Yeah,
well, I mean, you've got a very strong squad in general. They did well in both the Freshers and the women's tournament. Especially last year, they were a really strong year last year. Just thinking about it, there's Harvey Brimickham. That's probably their key thrower. A former England youth player, so I had the chance to coach him as well. A lot of potential, a lot of raw talent. It's whether he can find that form after studying in the States, returning now to Winchester.
Yeah, playing a bit of dodgeball over there, so I understand as well.
Yeah, of course. Can someone like him have an impact?
With the Winchester team, absolutely. So let's touch a bit on the favourites as well. Got to be Derby going into it, retaining champions.
But I'm definitely looking for some upset in the second, third and the fourth positions from the DPL teams we've touched on already, and see what ripples Brett's DMU team and the Manchester Met team with the other superstars in there, just see if they can cause some ruptions all the way up through the rest of the table.
Yeah, I think Jake's hit the nail on the head there. I think Derby are the clear favourites. Very strong DPL performances. I think they won 2 of their opening 3 matches.
Only losing to the champions of last year.
Yeah, so some fantastic players in there, and a good balance in the team. But this is dodgeball. Anything could happen. There's a lot of teams challenging them, and it only takes one upset, and they might not get the goal.
Absolutely. Right, thank you guys, and we look forward to catching up with you later after some of the games have been played. So I'm joined here now by Dan from Speed Freak. You are obviously our main sponsor here for the University Championships. Tell us why you wanted to get involved with dodgeball.
We chose to get involved with dodgeball because we think it's a very up-and-coming sport. We think it's also a very cool sport to play. I think our brand, Speed Freak, really fits that in terms of the image of the brand and the actual sport. Also, we really feel like the product's really going to help dodgeball players in terms of being able to run faster to get the ball, be able to throw more effectively, but also dodge the ball effectively as well. As the training product helps train your power production and helps you be more explosive. Dodgeball's a very explosive sport. From that point of view, dodgeball is a really good sport for us to get involved with, and we really want to support the University Championships. We know that participation levels have been growing in dodgeball in the University Championships, and people have been going off and starting clubs from it. We feel like it's a very important base for us to build from. We also want to get involved to actually help improve performance of these dodgeball players and help improve how they train for the sport and perform at the maximum. And this is where the product's going to help them quite a lot. We've used the product with a few teams before they go out and compete, and they found that they've got a much better preparation before they go out and compete. They feel like they can move faster and be more effective on the field.
I also understand that you took a few of the athletes today, and we have a few testimonials now to listen to.
Well, I feel my legs are lighter and I feel faster and I feel I can jump higher, to be honest.
It felt strange at first, but it does make you feel a lot lighter and a lot faster on your feet. Like, you do feel like you can move a lot quicker and you've got that burst energy to really go.
it would reduce the amount of injuries that players get with their legs and their knees over time, so it's really good.
I'm really looking forward to playing now that I've used it.
Right, you join us courtside where Warwick Warriors have just been crowned University Champions for the 4th time in their history. Scoreline at the end of it, a 9-1 scoreline, not the scoreline that many predicted.
Absolutely not. Coming into the final, we saw Winchester taking out all comers on the way through.
Yeah, some real power throwing in that Winchester side, and even the games themselves, they didn't reflect the final score. Each game was very close.
Yeah, I must say there was some fantastic catching, especially on the Warrior side. One man to pick out, I would say, from that final, Adam Bowditch.
Yeah, I think
some stunning catching.
As always, not to ignore Ollie Haig there, relatively new to Warwick, taking some really important catches right at the end of games as the last man.
Back from that terrible injury.
That injury just the other week where he lost a couple of teeth or bits of his teeth.
But it's great to see him back on court.
Straight back in.
Winning a medal.
Absolutely. A bit of controversy around the final decision to win it for Warwick. They were 7-1 up in the end, but a catch on the whistle. What your opinions? What do you think?
I think it's got to be. Does the ref see the catch made before he blows the whistle? The ref obviously didn't make that call, so it's not given us in time. I think it was on the whistle, and therefore the ball was in flight.
Okay, therefore the game's over.
Not an easy game for the refs at all. We saw there in that 4th game there were some controversial decisions. Well, not controversial decisions were fine, but the difficulty, starting skill to making a catch, starting to fall over. You need to be solid for that catch to be valid. And
absolutely.
Very, very difficult for them to call. And then the same on the other side. We had another difficult decision for the refs that didn't go in Winchester's favour.
We've seen some very controversial decisions this tournament, especially the 5-second rule. The 5-second rule,
bane of everyone's lives.
It kills games. It's a necessary rule.
Yeah.
But do you think that it's a rule that is here to stay and that is here that is something that is completely?
Well, I think the rule in its current form in the law, in the word of the law, can't. I think it's written as it has to be. I think it's the implementation of that rule. But at the end of the day, it's up to the teams to adhere to what the referees are using their powers to.
Absolutely. So the motion of throwing rule. Do you want to clear that up?
It's just the problem with the rule in general. That the point of it there is that the team with the majority of the players, if they have the majority of the balls, has to use them. It keeps the game flowing and it stops it stagnating or stops the team just stalling for time. And it's good. It's important. But it's the way that it's called, I think. The counting down at 5 seconds isn't clear. Sometimes the referee will count from 5 and finish his counting when everyone else thinks he's on 1. It's just not a clear system. We need some hand signals alongside the counts so everyone knows where they stand.
I never think we should stray away from the reason for that rule, and that is to stop time wasting. Maybe it's been used for
Derby came a cropper of that themselves twice in their 3rd-4th playoff. There were a couple of occasions, and they were using the 5 seconds trying to stall for time, and it didn't work for them on a couple of occasions.
On the very last
decision
the very last throw of the game, to have 2 players out. Absolutely gutted.
Alex said himself before, the 5-second rule is to stop time wasting. If he'd have thrown after 3 seconds, it wouldn't have been an issue.
Absolutely. We started the day in the group stages, and we're thinking, Derby, we're thinking, we are thinking Winchester, we're thinking Warwick.
Yeah.
But a few surprises come out of the round of 16 in the quarterfinals. A couple of second teams sneaking through.
Yeah, 2 second teams made it through. Portsmouth and Bedford both got second teams into the round of 16 out of the groups, which is a strong showing from both of them.
Bedford in particular, knocking out our underdogs that we picked out earlier today. Birmingham Lions first.
Yeah.
On for the hat trick.
Birmingham 2.
One of the biggest upsets of the day, but it shows real potential in that Bedford squad.
Which is nice to see.
Promise for the future, really.
So then, the pick of the quarterfinals. Any calls? Any catches? Any hits?
Personally, I managed to catch most of Derby's games. It was an interesting day for them because I feel like they were starting to gel really well as a team, showing that team spirit and the individual ability that obviously they're blessed with. But I think the things that stood out was the ability of almost the lesser players on that team to turn a game around and show that they deserve that place.
I have a bit of a biased view on it, but my pick of the Derby lot, Nat Edwards. The amount of catches he took this afternoon, it just like his chest was a magnet. It was incredible to see. And he's quite a petite guy, and the smaller guys tend to have that. I know with Warwick, the team that just won it, a certain Darren Skilton.
Yeah, he's always been a solid catching
He's a very small man, but he uses his body in such a way, and I think Nat especially has picked up on that. I mean, it's all about the hand-eye, and it's all about...
It's positioning as much as anything else. You see people taking stunning catches and they've stretched their arms out as far as they can possibly reach, and they always look the best, but your best catches tend to be the ones that make it look easy, and they're the ones who see where that ball's going and they're there already, and they've got themselves behind it.
I think you saw from both Adam Bowditch and Darren Skilton 2 experienced catches that really just took the tournament.
So a final word on Warwick then. Obviously, you two are completely biased. None more so than 3 times winner. Yeah,
yourself. 3 times champion. And now being eclipsed by Darren Skilton with his fourth title.
He will not let that go.
No,
that's his.
Nobody. No, I don't think anybody will ever win it more than him, possibly.
Now. And it's got to be said, it's an impressive record. He's played 5 university champs. His first tournament ever. He got 2nd place. I mean, he really let himself down there.
It's understandable.
And then the subsequent 4, he's won it 4 times. I mean, what more can you say?
No. For me, heart swells with pride, of course. They're my boys, and it's nice to see that even after the legacy, like I say, the team that won 3 years running was a mostly unchanged team, and they had a couple of years of reshuffle and trying to get more players back in and just trying to find their groove again. And it's really nice to see that this current crop, they're around for a while, and they've got the chemistry that the Warwick of old used to have. And for us, lovely to see. Yeah, very, very proud indeed.
So Warwick coming up now. You can hear the crowd noise. Definitely a fan favourite, Warwick University. I mean, they've been around for just about as long as the sport of dodgeball has been around. Talk us through, you two, on what this means to a club like Warwick.
Well,
I think you can hear what it means to them.
You can hear with such great support for the Warwick team. Well, I think when you leave a club, you hope that you leave it in a strong position. And I think we saw with such a large number of players leaving. 3 years ago now. There was also a bit of a concern that you leave it in a worse position for that.
There were some big shoes to fill when everyone left back in 2011.
But I think this is kind of coming full circle and realising that the club has strong foundations, and though players come and go, a strong club's always going to...
It says a lot for the training that they do at Warwick. I mean, the training systems are relatively unchanged, I think, since the days of Sean Michael Jelly. But it's nice that they've kept the training, kept the discipline, and it's taken a couple of years for them to find their feet. But this team, good chemistry, great cohesion. Even with the addition of Darren Skilton there, I think he was an addition. He wasn't he did his part and he helped, but it was by no means the Darren Skilton show. This was a win for Warwick all round.
If possible, I think we might like to get an interview with Ollie.
When you got a minute.
So, congratulations. Very, very well done.
Delighted. Alex.
Right, so, just give us a little bit of a talk through. How do you feel right now? I mean, just saying to Alex and Jake, 2011, last time you won.
I know.
You've lost some big players, but it doesn't seem to have made a difference.
Well, it's an honour to sort of bring the trophy back to Warwick. It's been a long time coming. So it's great to sort of end our little drought, so to speak. I thought we played great all day. I'm really proud of all the lads, and I'm buzzing. I'm delighted. Hopefully tonight's going to be a good party.
Any one moment in particular? Not in the final, so you're talking group stages, knockouts. Any one moment where you thought, well, this might not be our year?
Yeah, Balls of Steel. I think it was the second game. I think we were down 5-2 something with time running out. And I don't know who it was, but 2 catches were made, turning it around, and from there being able to look back. So I'm delighted.
And so you should be. Very, very well done, Ollie. Well done. Cheers.
Cheers, Ollie.
Cheers, Ollie. Well done.
So that brings to an end our coverage of the University Championships this year. Warwick coming away with the championship. It's been a fantastic tournament. Again, another word to our referees who have had quite possibly, I think, one of the best refereed tournaments that I've ever been to, and that I've refereed myself. So I really must applaud. Them. I mean, that it was a horrible day to be a referee today.
I mean, some really tough decisions to make, especially surrounding the 5-second rule. But they really stuck to their word, and that's what you really want from a referee, to make a call and stick with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's consistency is the key.
It is, yeah. And across the whole weekend, the referees have been there, consistent. Rob, head referee for the whole weekend, just governing the whole system. Means that the referees are all kept in check. They all know what they're doing. The calls are consistent and fair. So again,
and another shout out to a man we haven't mentioned, our tournament coordinator Nick Pinnock. He has been the rock behind the UKDBA. He is. I don't think one man has ever had to take on so much responsibility, but he has almost single-handedly brought the sport to where it is today, hasn't he?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for certain. I mean, none of the university scene would be anywhere near it is today if it hadn't have had the real dedication and energy driving the tournaments in the early years, and which continue to the present day.
No, absolutely. So with that brings our coverage to an end. So we want to thank you very much for joining us. I've been Andrew Carson, they've been Jake and Alex, and we look forward to seeing you next year.